Hello everyone and welcome to our first weather video for Scotland in a long time. The last time we did one, by the way, was in February, so this is the first time we are going to be doing a Scottish weather forecast or a Scottish weather update since February. This will be focusing on Scotland. A lot of other channels focus on the UK, but I want to make this a little bit different to focus on Scotland in particular. We will look at the UK a little bit, but not much. We will be doing mainly Scotland for this video and our usual Scottish videos as well. I am going to plan to do this very often. I'm going to try and do one every week, if not every 2 weeks at the absolute least, because we are coming into the interesting part of the year now. So I'm going to try and do one of these at least every 2 weeks, but the goal is to do one every 7 to 10 days or something, just so that I've got a video going up and we do look at Scotland, see how it's going. But yeah, and the more interesting points, particularly in the winter, we might actually do a little bit more than one every 10 days or something. But yeah, I will explain that when we get there. But this is the first weather video I've done on my channel since the spring forecast. That went okay, actually. Went much better than the winter forecast last year. God. But yeah, to start off with, there's a lot to get through, but we're going to try and make this about a 20-minute video, 15 to 20-minute video. We're going to have a little look at some charts like the GFS, the ECM. We're going to have a look at some extended charts like the CFS. We're going to have a look at like the UKV and stuff, like say the rainfall and the temperature forecast for the next week or so, and we'll have a little look at other things here and there as well. So we are going to start off with I'm going to have a little look, because we haven't done a video for a long time, so we're going to see how 2022 has gone so far. So we're going to have a little look at the mean temperature for 2022, and we're going to go through all months until September, just to keep you up to date with it. So we're comparing this to the 91 to 2020 anomaly to see how different it is. Actually, January 2022 was a bit closer to average in the south, because if you remember, in January 2022 we were bringing up a lot of high pressure and it was cold nights. It was frosty a lot in the south, but in the north it was a lot more milder as we were exposed to the Atlantic. In February it did flip a little bit, like in terms of the weather. In terms of temperature, it was milder in the south, but it was closer to average, slightly above in the north, because we were bringing in a lot of low pressure systems in February. In March, we had around slightly above average, a slightly cooler month overall, but it was still an above average month. In April, we did have around average actually, so it was pretty close to average in April, so it was a bit of a cooler month. Not notably cool, but it was certainly a cooler feel than the first 3 months of the year. In May, we had a much milder, not much milder, but in the east there was a lot of mild weather going on. And then in June, we actually increased the temperature a little bit more. Actually, we didn't. I thought it was June that actually increased it, but no. June was actually cooler than May. I'm actually surprised at that. And in July, I'd say this is probably, I'm going to guess that this is probably the highest like anomaly to average one, yeah. In the east particularly, I noticed this a lot. We're going around 1.5 to 2.5 degrees above average here. But yeah, that was a... Yeah, this was a very hot month, particularly around the middle of the month when we reached 32 in Scotland and about 41 in England almost, I think. And August was a warmer month. Actually, down in the south, we're going to 2.5 to 3.5 above average there. Wow. And in September last month, we actually had a bit of a cooler month, I think. Yeah, so there was places that came out above average, but overall, I'd say it was quite close to average overall last month. So we kind of like dialed it back a little bit, but is that temporary? Who knows? Maybe October will be. I don't think we have any October data yet. No, we don't. I thought we might have had one up to like the 10th or something. But yeah, we are actually... We are looking pretty cool in September, or cooler than recently, especially after that long hot summer as well. Sorry, I'm drinking tea here. I tend to now have drinks next to my videos. It makes it easier instead of my mouth going dry after like 20 minutes. The other thing I'm going to have a look at is rainfall. This is going to be a lot more eye-opening than temperature, I reckon. So January 2022, our percentage of the 91 to 2020 average. So we're looking at some places here around 33 to 50%. Some places in the east only gotten 20% or lower in January. A lot of high pressure dominated this month as well. February was like probably our only wet month this year so far, and even then. Yeah, I remember this being a very wet month. We were looking at some places even got 200% of rainfall. This is a very wet month as well. But that was probably the last wet month this year. Like March went drier than average mainly. A little bit close to average in some places, but March is a pretty dry month in general anyway. April as well, another dry month, except from the north of Scotland. May... around average. Some places were drier, but most places were around or a little bit above average, a bit below average on rainfall, except from the northwest of Scotland. June went drier than average in the east, a little bit wetter in the west, but mainly in the east was dry, as we had that hot weather as well. July went even warmer, and especially in the south. Wow, wow, wow. Look at that, below 20% of the average rainfall. Wow, that's when we had that hot weather. August, probably around more widespread dry, except from some place in like central Scotland and stuff, but overall, it was a very dry month. And September, actually, interestingly enough, September kind of reverted back to wetter a little bit. Notice the northeast of Scotland as well is particularly wet. Like some places going 200% above average rainfall. Wow, look at that. Some places are still drier, but overall, I'd say this is kind of going back a little bit. Now, October is looking like quite a wet month. We're going to have a little look at some chart data in a minute, and I'll show you some of the rainfall that we've got so far for October. It's looking very showery for the next week, but we'll see how it goes. We have got hints of high pressure building in from the north, so that might bring some colder weather. But I think it's probably going to end up around average for October, maybe a little bit above. Probably very similar to September, I reckon. October will end up. Now, it's been a while since we showed you this. This is the Fife weather station in Lochgelly. This is like the data that is given to this. So the maximum temperature so far for October is 15.2, which is actually quite cool for October. Actually, for a maximum temperature, we haven't had a single day in October so far in Fife that's gone above 15.2. That's pretty cool. If you compare it past years as well, this could be one of the lowest, because this goes from 2006 to 2022, so we're only showing about 12 years here, but so there's about 5 years missing. But that, if 16.1 is the 12th place, you can probably imagine that 2022 is quite low, actually. Yeah. The minimum temperature is 5.4. This is one that we're probably not doing so well at. We're also really low at this. I imagine later in the month though, this will probably start climbing the board, but we'll see. Average temperature is 10.2, so we're actually having quite a mild month so far, but there is hints of it going down a little bit. And as well, you have to bear in mind that this is not up to the present day. This is for October as a whole. So in general, October usually gets cooler as you go through, so it'll probably end up in the 9s, I imagine, low 9s or something like that. Unless we're getting a northerly, we might actually get in the 8s, but we'll see about that when it happens. And precipitation, we're probably around average at the minute, 39 mils. The highest rainfall we ever had for October was last October at 171 millimeters. Wow, that was quite a wet October. And that only happened in 1 week as well, so it just goes to show that a lot can change in a week. It was the last week as well, in the Halloween week that it happened. We were sitting at 50 mils until that last week. We got an extra 120. Very, very noticeably. So this could happen this year. You never know, you never know. But right now, I think we're probably heading for about an 80 mils or so, October. But yeah, that's the data so far that we're looking at. If we compare the year as well, if you look at this, the maximum temperature ever recorded in Fife was 30.7 in July 2022, so that is our warmest month, beating June 2018 as well. I always talked about this, I don't think we're going to beat June 2018 for a while, but July 2022 came along and beat it quite easily. Also, August 2022 is in the list now as well, with 26.3, so yeah. We haven't changed much in terms of precipitation, or August 2020 still remains with 273 mils, and July 2006 still remains the warmest average month on record. We didn't really beat that with 16.5 in July 2021 as well, but yeah. The latest wind direction is coming from the southwest today. We're dragging up southwesterly winds, so it is a little bit milder in the south, although it doesn't look that much milder in the south, does it? 16 degrees at just before 1 p.m. So yeah, this is at 12, so this is quite late. So we're sitting at 12 degrees in Dundee, about 13 in Edinburgh, 10 degrees in Pitlochry. Go north, you're still in single digits. Some places will stay in single digits most of the day, but I imagine most places will reach the mid-teens maybe by the time we get to 3 or 4 o'clock. The latest radar imagery shows that it's pretty dry, except from the northwest. We've got some rain packing into Fort William and some places in the north of Scotland. It should stay mostly dry all day in most places in Scotland. So we are going to go through some of the chart data then. So this is the UK Met. Remember, we are focusing on Scotland today. We won't be focusing on anywhere else. We are bringing in southwesterly winds, but it does feel a bit on the cool side in that wind. If we go through, we're seeing that low pressure is pushing through, so it's going to be quite a showery weekend coming up, quite unsettled, especially in England actually, because that front is pushing through a little kink in the isobars there. If we push that through, yeah, this is a problem with Weather Central at the minute. They've like shown empty charts, it's a bit weird. And now what's going to happen? We're seeing a battle with this Greenland high going on and this continental high. So if we push through, we can see that the Greenland high does kind of win out a little bit. It does slowly topple in, so it will be a cool ridge because we will get some frosty nights along with that. The upper air temperatures look fairly warm in the south, like they look a bit cool for Scotland, but I imagine that will still be cool because we are bringing in sort of like a northerly influence from that high pressure. Now the high pressure is slipping away to the east towards the continent, so that might allow some higher pressure to allow some southerly winds to get going, so that could get a little bit warmer during the day. It could still be quite warm, it's quite cool by night, but this low pressure might start running into the UK, or it might start to promote a Greenland high. It's a very complicated system, very complicated pattern, but we will keep an eye on this to see what happens. If we have a look at some of the temperature forecast from UKV, this is the UK Met, we can see here that today, we can see here that we're going to get the low teens or so, but some place might get 14 or 15. You can add a few degrees or so on with this, but yeah, some place might get, especially in the towns and cities, might get to 14, maybe 15 degrees today, especially in like Edinburgh and stuff, where it's usually warmer anyway. So we push through. Tonight it's going to be a fairly cool night in the north. Around the towns and cities it will stay just in double digits. If we push through as well, tomorrow's going to be a very similar day, a very cool feeling day. It's going to be between around about 5 in the Highlands to around 12 or 13 in the Central Belt. We push through again. Saturday morning is going to be quite a cool morning actually, even in towns and cities. We're looking at mid-single digits on Saturday morning, so that's going to be quite a cool morning that. For sure. See there down in the south, you can see mild air is trying to push up 17. You can see that. You can see that continental, that European high trying to really push in, but it's struggling. You can see it is struggling. You can push through here, and we can see we're staying in single digits for most of the day in many places, but it does get into double digits a little bit, so it's a bit of a cooler day on Sunday actually, as that high pressure starts to topple in. That low pressure clears off, sorry. The low pressure that we saw on this chart here for Sunday, we can see here that it's clearing off, but it is trying to pull down some cooler air with it, but this low pressure is stopping it. It's trying to stop it from pulling in that cooler air. Yeah, we can see some milder air getting into the south, but in Scotland it's still pretty cool, and then that kind of continues into the new week, and it still stays between like that 9 and 12 degree range, doesn't it, for the next week or so. So Scotland is looking a bit on the cool side, whereas England is looking a bit milder, but it's a bit chopping and changing for England, whereas Scotland it's a bit more like stationary sort of cool weather. If we have a look at some precipitation then, we can see it's going to be mainly dry today. Notice that though. Notice the UKV does look a little bit low on that radar image. So that's 1 o'clock today. Where are we? Here we go. And if we go to weather radar, it doesn't look too bad. There's maybe a bit more in the actual radar. So yeah. You can see here that tonight there is going to be some rain pushing along the Central Belt, so there will be some rain in the Central Belt later tonight and into like parts of Dundee and Fife and stuff. There will be some more rain pushing in tonight as well, like just general showery weather. Like down by the borders, we may get some tomorrow morning as well. More rain showers pushing in. It's going to be a very showery weekend, I think. Very showery week coming up. But there will be a lot of sunshine going on as well. Quite heavy rain pushing through as well on Saturday morning as well, and then just showery weather coming up, maybe a bit more rain coming up on Monday morning as well, and then England and Wales maybe getting a bit more rain as well. It did look like in one of those charts that England and Wales were going to get more rain than Scotland, but at this point I don't know about that. It does look a little bit more drier for England and Wales and Scotland. Depends though. Depends. Alright, we're going to have a look at the GEM then. So as we can see, today we are bringing in sort of like a zonal flow. And then we push through to the weekend. It does look a little bit low pressure dominated, doesn't it? A very showery weekend coming up. And then the high pressure builds. We've got this battle between the European high, or the continental high as it's called, and this northern, like mid-Atlantic ridge with this low pressure in the Atlantic. It is mild at this point, But eventually, if that high pressure, look at that, we're starting to get some Greenland blocking going on. Greenland blocking, very interesting chart. This, look at that, and then we finally bring down this northerly. This is the sort of thing, if this happens in winter, it would bring us like a very cold blast and probably some snow showers. And we can see here that the -5 isotherm is in Scotland. So if that happened, we would maybe see some snowfalls, even down to low levels at night. Wow, that's going to be interesting. So yeah, we've got this Greenland blocking going on. This continental high did not win out. This low pressure slipped in Sev, and we're bringing down northerlies. So yeah, we're gonna have a look at the ECM. Then we'll finish off with the GFS as well. So we can see here that it is zonal until the weekend, where it's more low pressure dominated, and we're bringing up southerly winds, so it's going to be quite mild. But then again, same as with the GM and the UK Met, it does look like the high pressure is going to be dominant next week. But it depends. It kind of depends. It's maybe a little bit more with the continental high, this one, so it's a bit milder. Quite a bit milder actually. 10 degrees getting into the south. Maybe back to like 17, 18 degrees or something in the south. Probably still around 12 or 13 in the north. And then it does sort of break a little bit, but unlike the GEM, this one is a bit more zonal again. So I reckon in the next couple of days after that, we're probably going to be reverting back to the weather that we have this week, with the showery conditions in the north and a bit drier in the south, but still pretty mild. Although we do have the -5 Celsius isotherm in the north, but I imagine with this low pressure in the Atlantic, it will probably roll in and probably will turn as a bit milder. So yeah. How does that compare with the ensemble then? So this is the ECM ensemble we're going to have a look at Dundee. So we can see here that the overall operational run was a little bit above the white line, but you can see here there's a general trend that the white line will go up around the 19th, and then it will drop again around the 23rd. That's a long way off, but yeah, we can see it's going to be quite cool over the next week or so, next 5 to 6 days or so. And then we'll probably get a rise in the temperatures around the 19th to the 22nd, and then it might drop again. May get some cooler weather, but that is extended range, and we have no idea what's going to happen in that extended range. This is the GFS midnight run. So this is what you've been waiting for. This is the extended GFS. So this is the extended model that we can run up right until around Halloween, I think. Maybe the 29th, something like that. So we can see here that, again, very much of a muchness. We've got zonal weather coming up, a bit more low pressure dominated into the early part of next week, and then high pressure takes over. This does look like the continental is winning out a little bit. Like, it looks like it's winning out a little bit. Like, it might be here for a few days, but eventually that Greenland block is that North Atlantic ridge is going to topple in and will bring our cooler nights and probably cooler days as well. Might be still quite warm in the sunshine, but it does look a bit on the cool side with that one. And then you can see here that the Greenland high kind of takes over a little bit, and we start to bring down this northerly on the 28th, and then that kind of continues into the 29th. We see the upper air temperatures here. We can see that the -5 is getting to Scotland. The 0 Celsius is all over the UK, so that will be a very cool weekend if that was to come off. A cool end to October, maybe even a cold Halloween. Could be interesting. This is how this compares to the GFS ensembles. This is, so again, very, very similar idea to ECM. Actually, bang on similar, actually. You can see here it's going to be cool until around the 19th, and then it goes up for a few days, and then drops again. Although the GFS operational is, kind of like on the lower end of that cool weather at the end. Although it is a bit on the upper end, on the middle part of the ensemble. So yeah, it's very, very hard to determine what's going to happen after like the 19th. So yeah, we're going to have to wait and see what's going to happen with that. This is the GFS 6Z before we look at the CFS for up to till the middle of February, and then we'll be done. We can see here again, like I've said this before, maybe a bit more dominated with low pressure on Monday. Actually, maybe a bit stronger with the low pressure. That might bring a bit more wind and rain on that. So that is the latest GFS run. That's a bit of a flip from the midnight, actually. Not a bit of a flip, but it's a little bit more of a change. So yeah, the low pressure is a little bit stronger over the country on Monday with that low pressure. So that might actually bring a bit more wind and rain. And then same idea, it does look a bit cooler. Like the continental high isn't showing much dominance. Like it does bring the 5 Celsius isotherm into England, but it doesn't really bring that 10 Celsius isotherm in. So it might be a bit cooler with that one. And then same idea, we've got the the North Atlantic ridge trying to topple in, and then that will bring us cooler weather as well. We can see really cold weather going into Scandinavia actually with this low pressure. Wow. And then we can see here that we actually kind of are on the edge of that. We do get a little bit of a hint of it, especially in Scotland. It's not bad for October though, getting the -5 Celsius isotherm at this point. But then we eventually revert back to the zonal westerly flow that we're all too used to. How does that compare to the ensemble? I have no idea because it hasn't updated yet. But we can see the operational is at the lower end. And we do see that the operational was the one that was to lead the pack, you know, when we had the milder weather from that cold. We were meant to have a cold snap later this week into the weekend, but obviously the operational backed away from that, and then the ensembles followed onto that. Could this be doing the same thing with colder? Does it work the same way? Not usually, but yeah. Alright, we're going to end with the CFS Midnight Run. So this is the latest CFS run, and we're going to end with this, and we're going to see what this is showing for, we're going to see that this is showing for up till the middle of February, so that's going to be interesting. I'm sorry if the lighting's like really bright, it does look a bit bright on the webcam. It's because the sun's just came out, wow. Alright, so we're going to go through this. We can see here that it does look a bit zonal up to the end of October, so this is not agreeing with some of the model output. Looks very zonal, maybe a bit cooler there around the early part of November, but not enough for snow, I don't think. Maybe some hill snow. This just looks very zonal, maybe a bit cooler there, not much though, a bit stormy actually around the 10th of November. And then we can see how the jet stream is sinking southwards, but low pressure is just keeping milder weather coming in. In November, like, it could be a bit cooler, but as you get into the winter, if you've got that jet stream south, it doesn't matter. If you've got low pressure around the UK, it's just not going to go cold. You need that low pressure to go right down to Spain or something, and then the high pressure to be up in the north. And then we can just see this is just very low pressure dominated right until the end of November. This will be a very wet November if this comes off. Nothing for that. We can see here that high pressure is getting going in December. This looks very much like last year. I'll give it that. So yeah, we can see here that actually it's having a good go at Scandinavian high right now. But it's really, it looks very southerly, doesn't it? Like, it looks very mild at this point. But you can see hints that the Atlantic is calming down as well. And look at that, we are starting to build a Greenland high. Is this going to set up some proper northern blocking? It doesn't look that cold right now, but are we going to get a northern blocking going on? No, we're not. We've failed completely. So what we actually do is bring up southerly winds. We do get cold for a few days, but that northern blocking wasn't strong enough. There was too much power in the Atlantic for that to stay. So it's very much like last Christmas, doesn't it? So then what we actually end up with is a very mild Christmas and a very dry Christmas. Look at that, 5 Celsius ice from right over the country. That would be probably the mildest Christmas for a few years. And yeah, as we go up to the New Year period, it looks still very mild, very low pressure dominated. It does look a bit cooler actually as we get into the New Year period, but I mean it's very changeable, and it might, some of these low pressures might start to produce some snow above like 200 meters or something. But again, it's trying to get up to Scandinavia. It's not really getting it. It looks very low pressure dominated. Although this Atlantic ridge is still bringing in northwesterly winds, so it will be very changeable in air masses. So it'll be some southerlies, some northwesterlies, but it isn't locked in cold anywhere. Very far from it. Keep going. It just looks very low pressure dominated. Actually, this looks like very much like hints of January 2020 actually, when we had that very low pressure dominated month. And then the PV powers up, and look at that. Actually got a little bit of blocking going on there. I don't know if that's enough though. It looks very messy. I will give it that. But yeah, we just keep going on. It looks very mild. A little bit of blocking going on there. Not much, but it might be enough to bring some snow showers in for a few days or so. But it's not, you know, that sort of classic February 2021, March 2018, December 2010, March 2013, sort of locked in blocking cold. It's not like that. But yeah, there is some cold snap potential with this. We get to the middle of February, it still looks pretty mild. And yeah, we start to see signs of a Scandinavian high actually get going here. So it is southwesterly, so it isn't properly cold. But if we start to get that a bit further north, we might actually a bit colder there as well as we get into the end of February. But I mean, it's just been kept at bay by the low pressure systems. It does look a bit changeable there though. But that's usual in March, where we start to get -5 Celsius ice forms always coming down. Alright, that's going to do it. I'm done. I'm done. Thank you very much for everybody that's watched this return to weather videos. We will be back hopefully next Thursday or something, or next weekend or something like that, with another one of these. But yeah, that is going to do it for this episode. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that button. If you want to keep up other videos on my channel, please subscribe. It is looking very mixed over the next few days, next few weeks. Maybe get a cold snap around the end of the month, but yeah, nothing properly cold yet. But yeah, see you later.